Microsoft's next-gen Xbox has an AMD chip inside, and it's not locked to a single store. That's the headline. So let's break that down for a second. First of all, they're going to make another Xbox. That was not guaranteed. You love the Bungie gameplay. It's really hard to beat. You can't find easily, better first-person shooter gameplay. They've just been the gold standard for forever. So when they're coming out with a new FPS, you go, that's pretty exciting. And then you realize it's an extraction game and you go, don't know about that. I don't think there's been a time in this last week where I haven't been thinking about Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's time. It's time for the show. It's time for the Andy B Show. So glad you're here. What an incredible week it's been since we last met. I am so thankful for all of you who've joined the Patreon, followed me on YouTube, listened to me on Spotify. Glad to know you're out there. This is a podcast about video games. And I really hope it's okay for me to say that this is, from the time that I published this, it might be too late for you to have heard it and taken action on this. But I'm going to pitch it one last time, since there'll be about 24 hours before this contest closes. I'm giving away the 1 year of Nintendo Switch Online individual membership plus expansion pack that came with my Switch 2 that I bought from Costco, because Nintendo does not care if I have a family subscription. I can't stack this on. And so I want to give it away as a way to celebrate the show. This is the 5th episode of the podcast that's out now. So it's like, hey, little celebration of Switch 2, little celebration of me and you. So if you want to enter to win, all you have to do is go join the free Patreon, patreon.com/the Andy B Show, and you'll be entered a chance to win. I'm going to pull a name out of the hat from any of the free or paid, but free subscribers is all it takes to enter to win. So thanks for checking it out. Yeah, thanks for going to the Patreon. But if you're following me here, you listen to the show, it's great. You don't have to give me money. I'm trying to give something to you. And the only way that I know that you're out there is for you to sign up, and then I can give it away. So feel free to enter to win. If you hear this, if you're like waiting, if you're on day one from when this podcast launches, the giveaway is going to end. It's going to wrap on Monday, June 23rd, 2025. So if it's past that time, feel free to come join the Patreon. Maybe I'm giving away something else, but I'm giving this away at the end of the day on that night. So join to win. Since we last spoke, it was fun. I got to go to Houston. I posted from the South, y'all. I pitched this podcast from the South. I grew up in Louisiana, and I'm still living here. I've been all around the country, at least the U.S. I'd never made it out of the country, not even on a dare, which is a little bit weird. You think most people would make it to Canada on a dare. But no, yes, I'm still in the South, and or made it back here. But we went to Houston over the weekend, and I was traveling with my new Switch, the Switch 2. But guess what? It was easy to find a Switch. For me, on day one, I kind of lucked out. I walked into Costco, and boom, there they were. You know what Costco doesn't have? Carry cases. You know what doesn't fit the Switch 2? The Switch 1 carry case, because it's much larger. So I was scrambling. I was like, oh, I'm going to travel. I want to take the Switch 2 with me. But I don't have a case. I guess I'll wrap it in a towel and throw it in here and hope for the best. So it felt weird because the Switch 1 case was so substantial. It was like you felt confident that if you threw it in there, it would survive. Your laptop might get crushed in your bag, but that Switch 2 or Switch was going to be fine. So I made it to a Walmart on the road. We were like, let's stop for gas. And stopped in a Walmart. I was like, hey, do you have a case for this thing? Because I didn't plan ahead. And sure enough, they had a couple of them, and it was the official case. And I was like, great. I bought the official case for Switch 1, and it was wonderful. And I bought this case for the Switch 2, the official one. Not as happy about it. But I thought I'd show it to you. I don't know how well this prop works. If you're listening and not on video, because you're listening to me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I'm going to describe it to you as best I can. And if you're catching the video, or you can go catch it on YouTube or any of the other places I post my videos, TikTok, Instagram, etc. Feel free. Anyway, it is a black case with a faux leather covering. I'm sure it's not animal on there. And it's got these two zipper straps. So one of them is going to fit kind of the bluish, tealish, and the other one's kind of the pinkish, peachish color, just like the Switch Joy-Cons, right? And that will zip nice and confidently. I'm sure you can kind of hear that maybe on the mic. I don't know if it's canceling it out. It's got a really nice, when you open it up, it's got a nice flap with a little pouch for you to put some game cartridges in if you're still buying those physically. And it's kind of soft and covered. That's nice, but that's kind of it. It's got a little bit of a protection when you were to push on it, top to bottom, but it just kind of like slips in there and zips up, and we love that. But it's just easy. But let me show you or describe to you the Switch One official case, and then weep. So number one, the Switch One official case has a handle on the top, so you can kind of carry it around without just grabbing it by the corner and waiting for it to drop. Only one zipper, but it looks like the Joy-Cons. It's the Joy-Cons. So when you unzip this one, you've got the little Joy-Con zipper. When you pop it open, this is gonna you have a zippered pouch here, and it's a padded pouch inside, so you can put whatever you need into in there. The little, the Joy-Con adapters. That's great. You flip this up, and it came with it's kind of a sunken area where there's a bunch of cartridge holders in there. So I got 8, games in there, maybe 7 based on this picture. But there's room in there for the Joy-Con adapters. There's room in there, molded spaces in there for where the back triggers are. And the whole thing has a molded, structured feel to it. And it feels super substantial. It feels like it was really built with the Switch 2 in mind. And this other one is just kind of like, hey, you got a Switch 2 or any rectangle? Do you have any thin rectangle? This will hold it. Whereas the other one's like, it's made for the Switch. So I'm disappointed in the new Switch 2 official case. It is not I may go third party. I may get it's fine. The Switch survived the trip to Houston, but for more money, the Digital Foundry review of the Switch 2 screen just came out. Haven't watched it, saw the headline. They were like, maybe it's kind of a trash LCD display in comparison to others on the market. Whereas I've had no complaints to my eyes. I was like, this looks bigger and better. Everything's great. But, they're the experts on screen quality, pixel quality. Not surprising to me that they've got something to say about it really deeply. I don't have anything to say about the screen, but the case is bad in comparison. It's fine, but it's bad. It's bad compared to the Switch One case. Thanks for listening to my case review. I know that's why you came here. I know you're like, man, I can't wait for the next episode of the Andy B Show, a video game podcast, so he could talk about the Switch 2 case. All right. I hope you're ready. We got a stacked agenda. Let's get into the news. There's been a lot of news this week, gaming news. So one of the biggest things that happened is that Microsoft had signs of life. So coming to us from The Verge is the headline here. Microsoft's next-gen Xbox has an AMD chip inside, and it's not locked to a single store. That's the headline. So let's break that down for a second. First of all, they're going to make another Xbox. That was not guaranteed. Everything that we've seen about Microsoft, Xbox, with Microsoft buying all of these studios has been to make sure that they are the biggest publisher of some of the best games from the best studios in the world. And they're gobbling them up over the last 10 years like crazy, with Activision being the biggest video game acquisition ever, I think. Fact check me. That's off the cuff. I think it's correct. It seemed like with Xbox Game Pass, with them putting out the games multi-platform, that they were going kind of very Sega, very, we don't need another Dreamcast. That was kind of a flop. There's too many players out here. Maybe we can't make it in the hardware game. Hey, everything's an Xbox. Your toaster is an Xbox. The Android screen on your refrigerator is an Xbox. If they're all Xboxes and they all stream, that's great for game accessibility. Really, I think that's huge. But then what's the benefit of putting out another piece of hardware? And they just raised the price in the US of their Xbox Series X from $499 to $599. And that's, mostly inflation and supply chains and tariffs. But, they're not trying to get more people to buy it with a price increase. They're trying to make sure that it's profitable enough so that they're not getting fussed at by Satya Nadella, who's, the CEO of Microsoft. So the fact that they're going to do another Xbox is a big deal. And they've said it's a strategic multi-year partnership. Okay, that means one console, maybe several, but at least one. So we talked about the ROG Ally last week. Well, maybe they're going to make more than just a third-party ROG Ally. Maybe they really will make their own handheld. That says to me, like, AMD is known for like small, efficient processing as well as like the big boy processor chips. But it says like, hey, we're working closely with the Windows team. We want Windows to be the number one platform for gaming. And it probably is by the numbers, right? Like it's probably the most widely adopted. So they're announcing the two ROG Allies. We talked about those last week, but really the next generation of Xbox is a huge deal. The fact that it's going to exist is very good for everyone involved. It's very good for you and for me, even if you're not Xbox fans. Maybe you're into PlayStation or Nintendo or PC. More competition's better. It's way better. It's much better to go, I know that there's going to be another Microsoft Xbox. I know that Sony's going to have to step up their game. So now they can't rest on their laurels with the PlayStation 5 and then just ship whatever. They can't ship a PS3 again. They got to bring it. So it's really great for the industry. There was a lot of rumors of like, they kind of people took that quote, I think, from Sarah Bond a certain way. I saw pictures, people mocking up the Xbox dashboard with a Steam logo on it. And for a minute I was like, wait, is that what that means? Are we doing Steam on this thing? Like that would be cool. Because the ROG Ally is kind of like, hey, it does Steam and does Xbox, does both game stores, because it's a Windows PC in your hand, right? So it's not doing anything different than your Windows PC is doing, which is to say it's going to run the PC or Game Anywhere based Xbox games, and anything else your PC can run, probably Steam. Maybe the Epic Game Store. The Epic Game Store is great if you just want to collect free games for forever. And I think there's probably a bunch of free games going on right now. I kind of want to go check, even though it's live during the show, because they're doing like their summer giveaway. And they had, as someone who hasn't upgraded their, to a gaming Windows PC in quite some time, I've got a nice Mac, but guess what Macs run? Just a little bit of things. They don't run everything as it relates to games. Great for record a podcast, great for a lot of different things, but really not so great for, playing PC games. There's just a extremely limited amount of them. But there was a game that came out on the Epic Game Store called The Operator. And it was the first one that's free on the Epic Game Store that is also a Mac. It has a Mac distribution. So I'm like, I'm kind of excited about that. So I don't know much about the game. I did go and capture it. I said, okay, like let me get the free download, right? But it's some conspiracy, like, what is this? Like a little indie, it says indie narration and puzzle game, The Operator. And it's still free right now. It's going on free for another 4 or 5 days. So it looks kind of like Papers, Please in a way. Like you're going to be gathering information from a lot of different places, making the links. So the puzzles are, making the link of the different information that's out there to try and solve, like, who done it or who is about to do it or whatever. So I haven't played it, but for free and also on Mac, I'm down, So is the next Xbox really going to run Steam? Is it really going to run the Epic Game Store? Or is it just the Xbox that's a Windows machine? Which seems extremely likely. So good news for everybody. New Xbox is coming. Whether you buy it or not, it will make your other ways of playing better because they're investing more in it, right? There's upward investment dollars in making sure that things are good. A lot of people that play on PC, that when they're not playing on game, mouse and keyboard, they're playing with the Xbox controller, which has been one of the best, most solid controllers, I've said before that like I really like the haptic feedback in the PlayStation DualSense controller. But if they're not doing haptic feedback, like as far as hand feel, that Xbox controller is hard to beat. I put one on my hands the other day. Just the other day, I was holding my Xbox Series X white game controller, and it feels good. Like it is probably the best like hand feel controller. It doesn't have the haptic triggers though, the force feedback triggers. So when games have that, I'm going to choose, even if I play them on a PC or Mac and I'm connecting a third party controller, I'm going to be choosing the PlayStation controller because I want that, but not all of them have it. I was looking at Hades 2. Hades 2 is an early access. It's not out on Switch yet. That's what got me going. I was like, oh, maybe can I get this on Switch? Like looking for any new Switch games. And it was fun to find like Fast Fusion being a brand new Switch game, the only other new Switch game outside of Mario Kart. And like that is exclusive to the Switch 2. That's brand new, super fun little game. But I was like, wait, what else is yeah, is it time for Hades 2 yet? And the answer is no. As of this recording, the answer is no. It's not available just yet. But Hades 2 is on Steam and it's on PC and Mac, and it has controller support, which I think is where I'd want to play Hades. That's where I played the first Hades, was on controller. It's very, action game, tinted action game focused. Even though it's an isometric look, it's not like Diablo where I'm just clicking. Though maybe it would be. Let me think about that for a minute. Yeah, the answer is no. I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna play Hades with a mouse and keyboard. But it supports PlayStation controllers on Steam, on Mac OS, but it does not support the haptic feedback trigger. So guess what? If I buy it on Steam, I'm probably going to play it with the Xbox controller, just a little bit more comfortable. Yeah. Anyway, that is a weird mess of the news story of the Microsoft Xbox next generation machine. So we'll see. I don't think we hear anything this year. I don't think we hear anything, a new Xbox, but maybe 2026, probably 2027. PlayStation just put out the PS5 Pro. I don't think they're in any like rush to get out a PS6, especially with Terra, especially with everything else. Like there's so much performance in that Pro. They know the tail end of these where they've got the huge install bases where they make all the money. They're making some money on hardware. But they're making most of the money on install units. And so they always want to have something to look out for. But yeah, I don't think it's coming soon. Either one of them. Next up, more news. A couple of quick hits that are a little bit, I don't know, kind of not sad. It's just news, man. Bungie has delayed Marathon indefinitely. So if you're a Bungie fan, I played Destiny 2 and Destiny before it and Halo before that for years and years and years. And if you love the Bungie gameplay, it's really hard to beat. You can't find easily, better first person shooter gameplay. They've just been the gold standard for forever. So when they're coming out with a new FPS, you go, that's pretty exciting. And then you realize it's an extraction game and you go, don't know about that. They've had a lot of controversy as well, which I'm not going to get entirely into here, with some art theft that they admitted to on a live stream. They got kind of sad about, like some either employed or contracted artists, I guess, ended up grabbing some art assets from off the internet. Maybe it was just an honest mistake and they went, oh, this is like the theme or the idea, but it made it into the game. At least it made it into the beta. So they've just had tumble after tumble kind of getting this game launched. And the big problem for me is I don't want to play an extraction shooter. I'm not the target market. And the people that are in the target market, if you don't know what an extraction shooter is, it is a long round-based shooter where it's not like deathmatch where you got 6-on-6, 12-on-12. It's not quite an objective-based game. It's like a PvPvE game. So you've got your team, their teams, and then you've got this enemy out there. And in the case of a new game called Arc Raiders, it's like this crazy huge kaiju alien thing. And then in the case of Bungie, I don't know what it is. I guess they have like NPC enemies out there. but you're supposed to get in. You gather up a lot of equipment and gear. So, like a Fortnite or a PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, you're gathering gear and skills and stuff as you go. So you kind of start with nothing, theoretically, and then you end up leveling. Uh, Either maybe leveling up your character mid-round, but the round might be 20, 30, 40 minutes, probably, depending on how well you're doing. And so you kind of have this arc of like growing your character abilities over the round and trying to like defeat all the other teams and then get out. So it's really big if you're into like, man, I got a squad of like 4 of my peeps and we're going to get in there and run town and we're going to have to get on mics and talk about where everybody's at and watch 6. That's fine. No problem. I'm not there anymore. My squad is disbanded. They're all living life. Like a lot of, grown professional adults that have kids and jobs. Like we're probably not going to be on hours for this. So it's really not my target, I don't think. So that said, when it gets delayed indefinitely, I'm like, it doesn't bother me, but it also, I still don't, it's not a huge market. And so either Bungie was going to come in and revolutionize that market, just really go, everybody that's into extraction shooters, we're going to serve you and we're going to broaden this market because we're going to bring the Bungie name to it and make it so much bigger than it was before and so much better. But the game kind of launched, the marketing on it didn't look amazing and kind of sad. So they've indefinitely delayed it, and I don't know that they can fix it. I feel like the game they're playing is not the same game that most people want to play. But the game most people do want to play, if they buy a VR headset, is usually Beat Saber. And it was just announced that Beat Saber is ending support on PlayStation VR and VR2. Now, if you want to talk about a niche market, virtual reality is probably a bigger market than extraction shooters, but not by much. So they're taking it off. Like, I don't own a PSVR, but I'm within arm's reach of my MetaQuest 3 headset. And I like it a lot. I don't play it that much for the same reason most people don't play VR that much. You put it on, it locks you out from the outside world. It's not something it's super engaged, whereas most of us are split attention. If you're listening to me, you're probably doing 2 things at once right now. You're probably on your phone or on another web browser. You're probably doing something else while we're talking. The only reason I'm not doing something else is because I have to, for a small period of time, single task and single focus on this show so that you can have a wonderful audio experience. At least I hope so. Please like and subscribe. But there is something that's wonderful about the VR, which is that it is totally immersive. Even when they do room scale VR and you can kind of see what's going on around in your room, like you are in that experience. But it also means that you have to commit for however long you're going to put it on, commit to that experience. And so the market for it is it's weird. It's like, getting people to put stuff on their head and shut out the outside world is just very different than every other way we consume entertainment. Movies are very interesting this way because when you go to the movie theater, they beat it into you. Turn off your phone so that we can all watch the movie focused on one thing at a time and have a unique experience. And so it's almost like going to the movie theater to me to go like, all right, kids, wife, Mrs. B, like I'm putting this headset on and I'm in, for an indeterminate amount of time. And if you want to give me, you're probably going to have to tap me on the shoulder, and that could be dangerous. I could be swinging my arms around fighting zombies or whatever. So it is like a very unique, it's almost like in a focused way, not about like the immersion, but just like you were committing until you take that thing off. You're in the movie theater. Nobody can come in and bother you. Apple has tried to kind of make that better. Even MetaQuest goes like, oh, you use room scale VR. You can see and talk to other people. But let me tell you something. About putting on a big VR headset and then looking at somebody. You can see them because of pass through and talk to them like normal. And they look at you and they go, you are a freaking robot. from the planet Zebulon over here looking at me with this big headset. I can't see your eyes. So Apple tried to fix it. They go, well, we're going to put the people's eyes on the outside display. And so it's going to look normal. It's not going to look normal. We're wearing a huge VR headset on our head. We're literally strapped in. It's very different. It can't look normal. It is unique. It is interesting. I haven't bought a PlayStation VR headset. My local guy at GameStop, like 2 years ago, year and a half ago, was like, "Oh man, don't buy a PlayStation VR." This is back when they were like $550. So he saved me $200 by waiting because they're like $350 now on sale. He's like, you should get the MetaQuest 3 because then you can roam around your house and it's got the battery pack and then you're free of all the wires. So when you do, like the graphics aren't as good, it doesn't have the PlayStation games, but it has every other game. And it now has Xbox games, which we'll talk about in a second. But he's like, you'll enjoy it more. And it's less expensive and it was available. Right? I couldn't find the other one that I was looking for. He didn't have it in stock. So I said, okay. And I tried it and he was, I think, right, but I never bought a PlayStation VR because it's like, well, you do have to wire in, you know? And if you're going to wire into it, you're I don't know, like it's very limiting when you put that VR headset on, you know, what you can see, what you can hear, even with pass through. And then to add a wire to the situation is a little bit difficult. But if you're going to put on a VR headset, the number one thing that you can play is Beat Saber. It's easy to understand. You can stand still because moving around while you're in VR trips people up, literally. And you hit things to a musical beat. So it's a little bit of Rock Band and a little bit of exercise and the music that you may like, the music packs for all the artists that you may like, probably. And it's just the killer app. It's been the killer app for VR for 5 years or however long it's been out. And they're going to stop support on PlayStation. Now, I can't remember. I should know this. But I think that the developers behind Beat Saber got picked up by Meta. I thought that was correct. But now yeah, that's it. Meta, yeah, of course, by Engadget, Engadget.com says Meta bought Beat Games, the developers, back in 2019. So in effect, the company is ceasing Beat Saber development on platforms that do not support its own headsets. So you're going to be able to play Beat Saber on MetaQuest 3 and the other VR headsets that, like Steam. So if your headset is supported by Meta makes the MetaQuest 3. If your store supports a Meta HeadQuest like Steam, you're in good graces. But they are cutting out PlayStation. So that means one of two things for me. Either that's totally strategic and they're like, we're just going to cut off PlayStation, but the VR market's so small. Like the total addressable market is small. Why would any of these folks try and make it less useful? Like they didn't put Batman, the new Batman VR game, which I haven't played, onto PlayStation. It's only on the MetaQuest headsets. And you say, well, that's an exclusive. Maybe they paid for the development or whatever. However you feel about exclusives might change how you feel about this. But they're not taking Beat Saber away, but they are ending development. When Rock Band 4 came out and they stopped making a Rock Band 5, they put out DLC for Rock Band 4 for like a decade on every platform. So it was worth it for them to keep making songs and music because the install base was the install base. They stopped selling like new instruments for it. Third party people have started making new instruments for Rock Band to kind of keep it going as they break. But the developer, Harmonix, kept making music for it because it was worth it. So with Meta owning Beat Games, they may not care about the DLC that somebody might have bought on PlayStation. So it either says there's nobody buying this DLC on PlayStation, so it doesn't hurt for us to cut it off, or it hurts, but we don't care because we're going to choke off the number one application for PlayStation VR, which is probably Beat Saber. If it's not Beat Saber, I'd be surprised. It's the number one game, in my opinion, for VR. So that's weird. But then, okay, now also keep this. from WindowsCentral.com. This leaked out. MetaQuest 3S Xbox Edition. So we talk about the MetaQuest kind of going like, hey, if you don't support our headset, and the PlayStation doesn't, they have their own VR headset, right? If you don't support the MetaQuest headset, we might, pull development of games. Maybe they didn't go so far as to pull the whole game. You can play it and they'll support it with bug fixes or whatever, but they're done developing it. Here it is, MetaQuest 3S Xbox Edition. Because you can stream Xbox Anywhere Game Pass games on the headset. And so I'm sure that this edition is just hey, it probably comes with a controller. Maybe it comes with 6 months of Game Pass or something like that. But yeah, your Xbox now has a VR headset, kind of like they have a handheld now. But none of it is their Xbox handheld or their Xbox VR headset. But because of the streaming of games, they're getting it out there. We'll see if it keeps working for them. Yeah, hope so. Two other news items, then we'll take a quick break. And when we do take a break, you're gonna freak out with what we come back with, maybe, especially if you like Donkey Kong Bonanza and talking about the salaries at Buc-ee's and how many games you can buy with it. We got some cool segments coming up after the break. But this is some news. Death Stranding is getting 2 movie adaptations. So, Death Stranding 2 comes out this week. As of this recording, it's coming out in 4 or 5 days. But they're already going to get one. This is from Polygon. They're already going to get one live action movie with A24 director Michael Sarnotsky. But now they're also going to get an animated series. It says an animated adaptation, an adult targeted animated feature. Okay. The person that's writing it is the guy that did Raised by Wolves, which is the craziest sci-fi HBO show I think I've seen in the past 10 years. So that went from I don't know, to okay, yeah, I'll probably watch that when it comes out. That sounds good. So yeah, if you weren't excited about Death Stranding, maybe you will be in a different form. I was chatting with some folks on Threads. You can follow me on Threads, andrew.m.b at threads.com or .net. I don't actually know. Threads is weird. It's threads.com. I was talking with somebody. They said, oh, yeah, I love the story. I love the idea of Death Stranding, but I don't want to play the game because it's too much walking around. Okay. They're going to have a product for you soon. Maybe 2 of them. Maybe an animated one and maybe a live action one. So let's let them fight and find out how it goes. Okay. That's all the news. And man, that was a lot. We got over half an hour of news and interesting things here, but we're not done. We got more coming back. See you back in a couple of seconds. I don't think there's been a time in this last week where I haven't been thinking about Donkey Kong Bonanza. This game comes out next month, and they had a Nintendo Switch Direct, 20-minute presentation about it. And I did a quick, off the cuff impression on the trailer and shared out some shorts about it. And people are super fired up about this game. I am too. But everybody's interested in it. It seems like, and there's some folks that are Nintendo haters and just skip forward a few minutes, I guess, if that's you. Not mad at you. I know this isn't for everybody. I have small kids. So for me, it's this is a game that dad could play in the living room. Everybody's going to love it. And then they get to play along. But man, Donkey Kong Bonanza looks nuts. So I think there's 3 things for me that are super important about this game. One, it is rumored to be made by the folks that did Super Mario Odyssey, which was an incredible platformer. Lots of fun, just joy all the way through. And you could see that both in the graphic style here and in just the way they make it fun and interesting. The key for me here, the second thing, is that it's got an incredible amount of destructibility. So when you're hanging out with Pauline here, you're going over these environments, but you can just bash into them, presumably nearly indefinitely. It looks like there's kind of no limits to that. But you're kind of going deeper and deeper and deeper. Instead of up a tower, you're going down into these new environments that all look new and different. And so it's the smashing and environmental destruction as well as the platforming. So like the core gameplay here just looks really, really good. But wait for them to start smashing, because the smashing is really what Donkey Kong. I don't know, like a Hulk smash, right? Not Donkey Kong smash, Hulk smash. But now Donkey Kong Smash, it used to just be like Donkey Kong would stomp and hit and clap and bounce, but now he's into like this environmental destruction in a way that I don't think we've ever seen before. And then the third thing for me is that it's like you get these unlocks, but when he eats enough bananas, you're going to level up and get new skill points and new abilities. And on top of that, I guess it's like 3.5, you're going to get skill based clothing and gear. You want to swim faster, you want to dig more, you want to push. And so, like Breath of the Wild, there's going to be gear that really enhances certain stats. So, you've got a little bit of Breath of the Wild in here, a little bit of Super Mario Odyssey. Like, it really feels like everything is kind of like building upon each other over there at Nintendo for their key games. And it's like, when are they going to miss? Like, this looks really good. So it went for me from like yeah, I should look at that next month. Maybe I'll buy that, to like, I'm definitely buying this. Like, you can bet it's coming home. We had two other kind of like new game trailers that were a big deal. I'll probably film an off the cuff for the longer one of these, which is the Blood of Dawnwalker. Blood from Bandai Namco, and I forget the team. I should know this. Should have done a little more prep, but you want to talk about doing it off the cuff? That's me right now. When you look at this gameplay, like the first thing you see, and I haven't watched this trailer yet, and I'm going to do the whole thing because it's like 22 minutes or something like that, 21 minutes of like deep dive pre-beta gameplay for this new game. But it's like, people are excited about this. Like, you're going to go be a vampire. It kind of looks a little bit like The Witcher, and deep RPG elements, and then deep combat. And it kind of looks a little bit like The Witcher, third person in this case. A third person over the shoulder camera, walking around big environments. That looks like Caramel, if I've ever seen it. That castle back there. And so I'm gonna do a deep dive into this. People that are into vampires and into swords and into RPGs are watching this week. So more to come from me. I'll do a deeper dive on it. But what I've heard about this that I haven't seen yet, because again, I have not watched the trailer yet. That's the most I've seen of it right now, as I've been commentating on it. Is that the combat is like you strike in certain directions to hit enemies. And immediately I was like, sounds like Blades of Fire. Blades of Fire came out a couple weeks ago. I did a few videos on it. I played the demo. Haven't bought it yet, but Blades of Fire was like, hey, we do sword and weapon crafting in the ethereal like blacksmithing area. But then also the combat was like, the face buttons would strike to the left, to the right, up or down. And so if you were in a tight space, like you could maybe strike up and down, but probably you couldn't swing a big sword without hitting the wall. So it had like hey, you can't just do any move anywhere. Like, your character in the world has some heft and some weight, and how you strike and how you defend and how they defend, how you break an enemy's guard is different. So it's got me kind of excited a little bit about Blades of Fire, and then to see a second game or hear about a second game. Haven't seen the trailer yet for Blood of the Dawnwalker. That may also be doing that. Is kind of a big deal that they're changing up with two developers potentially thinking kind of in the same way, that changing up how we do combat and how we think about striking enemies versus kind of like this, like, hey, The Witcher, God bless, love The Witcher. It's very, you can do any move anywhere. This is that, and this one's going to be a little bit different based on your environment. The other trailer that came out this week is the Borderlands 4 story trailer. Some people have gotten this game early or an early demo build of this game. Not me. I haven't. Call me, Randy Pitchford. Let's talk. But there's a new story trailer out here. They've been pitching and talking about how in Borderlands 2, they're going to have a darker tone and they're kind of resetting the environment. It's not all going to be just goofy gags all the time. But I'm pretty sure Claptrap's still in here, so not sure if I believe that. But I haven't watched this trailer yet either. I'm looking at it for the first time without the sound on, and it looks better, more like serious, just based on the look. So people are talking about this trailer as well. Let me know what you think if you've seen it. So those are kind of like some of the big gaming, non-news stories, but like games that are coming up either soon, like Donkey Kong is next month, Borderlands is September, Blood of the Dawnwalker, who knows? But I haven't been able to like play a ton of games this week. It's mostly been because I've been traveling with the Switch. It's been like Picross. I know you're shocked that I'm playing more Picross, a Nanograms game. I've done a couple streams with Squeecross, the mouse-based Picross puzzler game, but I'm still working my way through the Mega Picross puzzles in the Nintendo Switch Juniper Picross S Sega Genesis and Master System Picross game. That's a huge mouthful. But for $7.99, you get like 400 Picross puzzles that are based on objects in a bunch of classic Sega games. They got a bunch of cool music, and man, solving those puzzles, pretty good. This was a topic because I was on the road. I just had to talk about it. Whenever you go to Buc-ee's, not Boosie's, you know what? Call it what you want. Maybe it's Boosie's. They have these stands right outside. If you haven't been there, this is like a Texas-based, like Southern gas station chain that is like Disney World for gas stations. Like when you walk in, it's the biggest store you've ever been into. They have like 1,000 pumps and EV charging stations, if you're into that thing. And they have these huge signs right out front because they want you to come work there. They go, here's how much we pay. Could it get any more clear? If you work in the restroom crew, you don't need experience and you can make $20 an hour for 30 to 50 hours a week, 35 to 50 hours a week for full time. You get paid weekly. You get a 401k, 100% match up to 6%, 3 weeks of PTO, which you could sell or keep and roll it over. That's pretty cool. If you do overnight shift, you get $2 an hour differential, you get healthcare, and you can do part-time. So like if you're somebody that doesn't have a job, you can go work at Buc-ee's, probably. But then they end up showing you like the assistant, like they've got some big salary numbers on here. If you're a general manager at Buc-ee's, you can make up to $225,000 a year. And when you see how busy these shops are, you realize why that's the case. Like these things are making incredible amounts of money just based on the huge amount of traffic. Well, why are people going there? It's gas. Well, inside they've got these incredible snacks, wonderful food. They got this huge like beef jerky production department, barbecue, Texas barbecue all over the place. So I had to do a little bit of sleuthing. I don't know, it just hit me every time I see that. You'll see that sign out there on the internets where it's like, well, here's how much you can make at Buc-ee's. So I don't want to hear anybody complaining about anything. Okay, here's how much you can make at Buc-ee's. I had a little bit of fun with this. I said, hey, I did ask ChatGPT to help me out. I said, hey, let's say that you're like me, family of 4. Let's say that your spouse makes the median income, the most likely income we were outside of Houston, in 30 miles of Houston, 30 minutes outside of Houston, within 30-minute commute, right? So give me the household salary that you'd make if you were entry level, if you hit one of those team lead roles, if you were the general manager, and then after tax. And then they have these calculations that they'll do. I think it's like MIT does this calculation where they say, well, here's how much, you should save for, expect to pay for essentials for a family of 4. Here's how much you should expect to have in leisure funds. Here's how much you should expect to have to spend on needs versus wants, right? And so leisure or discretionary funds is like the last thing. So how much discretionary funds do you get and then how many games can you buy? So it made this chart for it, which is to say, if you're a family of 4 outside of Houston and you work entry level, like at the bathrooms, and full time, and your spouse makes the median income, which I think was like 73,000 in that area. After tax, with your needs, you have zero money for video games. Nothing. So if you have a family of 4, don't stop at the restroom crew. Keep working your way up to team lead, because that's where, if you're a team lead with your household, with your spouse, you can afford 5 games per year if you took half your discretionary funds and bought games with them. 5 games per year, it's pretty good. Yeah. I suppose you could also end up with, not spending half your discretionary income on video games, or just play free games. If you make it all the way to general manager of a Buc-ee's, you can buy 707 video games per year at full price using only half your discretionary income. So I thought that was silly. I thought that was fun to find out. And somebody on Threads was like, who's gonna spend half the discretionary income on video games and buy 707 video games per year? Nobody. But it was just for fun. It was just to find out and see, because we talk about game affordability a lot, right? Like, is gaming more affordable than it used to be? If you do these like backdated inflation adjusted cost analysis of like what consoles and games used to cost back in the 90s and early aughts and 2010s, the answer is yes, it's more affordable than it used to be. And you have these free games, right? So like, I could never imagine growing up playing a game with Fortnite's quality and interests and everything else, even if you never bought anything. It's an incredible game for free. Now they want you to buy stuff. They want you to subscribe to their little, Fortnite, monthly subscription. They want all that. They want you to feel the FOMO of seeing somebody in the Chun-Li outfit that you missed 3 years ago. They're bringing it back this week. Chun-Li coming back to Fortnite. You heard it here third. They want you to have FOMO. They want you to be in their grind. But the fact is, the gameplay on that game, what's interesting about it for free, is really wild. And you can play it, I guess, back on your iPhone now. You can play it, on a TV. You can play it in a web browser, streaming it, I think, free with like GeForce Now. Like, you can play that game at high quality pretty much anywhere for free. It'd be impossible if we were kids to think about that. What else? Oh, while I was out, just a little bit of movie moment. A little bit of like, hey, summer at the movies with the Andy B show. I have not gone a week without seeing 1 to 2 movies in the theaters. This movie summer is stacked. Absolutely stacked up. So much so, I mentioned last week that I subscribed. They're not a sponsor of the show. I subscribed to the Fandango movie club, I think they call it. It's like $10 a month. They waive the fees when you buy tickets on Fandango, and they give you a $10 credit every month. So like your $10 kind of comes back if you were going to go to the movie theaters. It's a use it or lose it credit. They don't stack up. So essentially it's like, hey, you pay me $10, you go see at least one movie with the $10 coupon, and then you waive the fees, so you're ahead of the game. So Fandango wins because they sell the tickets. The movie industry wins because I'm going to go see movies. I'm winning because I get to go see all these great movies, and there's a ton this summer. So I finally saw, when I was out in Houston, I finally saw Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And I saw it in the Regal Theater up there by the IKEA in Houston. And nice theater, like really just big, beautiful, open. They've got like IMAX and RPX, and they've got some kind of screen where like they have a huge movie screen. And then they also project stuff down the sides and the movie walls. Mission Impossible has been out for a few weeks, so I was just in like the podunk movie theater that doesn't have all that cool stuff, but it was still nice. The sound and picture quality was great. But the seats were not like full recliner chairs. And so that felt like a downgrade for me from like my local movie theater in my smaller town where I'm at. Maybe they have the recliner seats in the other Regal cinema screens. Maybe the IMAX one has recliner seats, but I'm used to recliner seats now. Big, wide recliner seats, a lot of space. But the movie itself was really special. I think that Tom Cruise, he's done it again. That son of a gun. Like, how does he keep doing this? He made another like really incredible action movie where he's doing real stunts in his 60s. Is the guy 65? Jumping between biplanes, like absolutely nuts. Yeah, it was very cool to see that movie. But Tom has done some stuff and set a pattern. Like the last 4 or 5 movies he's been in, he's set this pattern where he goes like, "Hey, I know that you're watching the movie, and I know we're going to do some complicated stuff. And like a magician, I want to make sure you get it, like all of it. I want to make sure you understand the trick, the intricacy of the difficulty of the trick I'm going to show you before I do it. So I don't just show you the trick and then you go, I'm not really sure what happened." And so he will spend an inordinate he and his team, his director team, doesn't matter if it's Top Gun or these Mission Impossible movies, they did the same thing where they explained the trick or the heist or the stunt to everybody else in the movie. And as a proxy, me in the audience, I'm getting it explained to me as well. So he would spend an enormous amount of time explaining what's going to happen next, or they're explaining it to each other. And then, as the audience, we get the benefit of the explanation. And then he goes and does the thing. And now we know the stakes. Now we know why they're doing it that way. And it almost seems a little bit like pedantic, like it's not as challenging that way, right? We're not having to figure out what's going on our own because he's explaining it all to us. And, he tells you what he's going to do. And then he goes and does it. And then he tells you what happened again. Like he does this, like his character will kind of, really think about it. But it is the quintessential formula for like a popcorn movie, is like letting us understand and anticipate, letting us see it all play out and really get it. So he brings everybody along for the rides. I can't think of like another movie group that's kind of doing it quite like that. I think the one that probably is the closest to me mentally was like Ocean's 11. And Ocean's 11, like Grand Theft Auto 5, would have these heists and multiple heists along the way leading up to the big one. And they would explain it to you, the ins, the outs, the ups and downs, the failure states of doing the heist. And then, at least in Ocean's 11, they would flash like, what if this goes bad? And they did this in the Mission Impossible movie. What if it goes bad? And they would show you a version of it going bad. And you're like, okay, well, that's a bad state. So we want to avoid that. And they would really bring you along. So the explanations were fun. You got to visualize what was going to happen, just like the characters, and then they went and knocked it out. And so, yeah, Ocean's 11, Mission Impossible, Top Gun, Grand Theft Auto 5, explain it all to you. But that lets you come along for the ride. So you might say, well, that's popcorn entertainment, but let me tell you something. I was eating popcorn at the time. So it seems totally appropriate to me. Let me tell you the bad thing about the Regal Cinemas Theater. I pulled my phone out of the cup holder. Never put your phone into a cup holder at a movie theater. I think this cup holder at this movie theater, I guess I didn't even think about this. Mrs. B was telling me on the way home. She's like, oh no, all movie theaters are supposed to have drains in the cup holder. So that when somebody puts in like their paper cup and it spills soda everywhere, it like has a drain that goes somewhere, which I never really even thought about. And I don't know if she means like a literal drain, like down to the, like down to a waste management system, or like a, just a drain that pulls into a tank somewhere. I don't know if she meant literally that, but I'd set my phone. I'd never do this, but I'd set my phone into the cup holder for some reason. And then when I pulled it out at the end of the movie, it was wet. And I was like, why is the phone wet? It's dripping butter sauce, like popcorn butter sauce. And it was full, like it had soaked in it, had gone up the back of the felt inside of the case, since I had to toss the case, wipe the phone down. The phone still smells faintly of butter and popcorn. I think I was able to clean most of it out, but really disgusting. Like that's, and I'm like, how did you get popcorn butter into the cup holder, and so much popcorn butter into the cup holder that it pooled up? And I'm lucky my phone's alive, to be honest with you. So please don't put your phone into the cup holder of movie theater systems that you're not used to. You might end up with a very buttery phone. But do watch Mission Impossible if you like those movies. I think it was pretty good. Yeah. All right, it's time for the something useful segment of the week. You may know that I'm a dad and working adult. And so when I get video game time or even time for this podcast, it's rare. It's borrowed time. It's like it's a hobby time that I have to find somewhere along the way, right? You may be that way. So many gamers I see out there are going like, man, I don't have time for games. It doesn't hit like it used to. I want to play. This is a hobby I've enjoyed since I was a kid, but I don't know, man. I just don't have it anymore. A lot of times, in my opinion, we're getting pulled forward. We mentioned Fortnite FOMO. We mentioned subscription services. These are pulling you and trying to give you FOMO and make you feel like you're missing out on something and you never really have the full experience. This game's so big, it's 140 hours. You're never going to collect all the stuff. Well, to some people, that's exciting. And to some people that are crunched on time, they go, I want to explore all that stuff, but I don't have time. I don't feel like I'm ever like closing the loop of a game. I can start games, but I never finish them. If that's you, two things. One, cut yourself some slack. Like give yourself a little bit of a break, would be my advice to you. Kind of let go of worrying about finishing all these games. Enjoy it while you enjoy it and then let go. But if you can't do that, find small games. Find tiny games, where you want to enjoy your hobby, and having the whole loop of starting something and finishing it can be very satisfying. There is a Steam list out there that I found. Gamers with only very little time is the name of it. So it's like a little Steam list you can find, and people recommended different games, and there's a bunch on here that are just like, hey, you can finish them or enjoy a full game experience in a short period of time. So they have some things like Marvel Snap, and it's like, well, Marvel Snap is like, yeah, you could play that in like 3 to 5 minutes. Like it's a little round-based game, but maybe it's not the whole story. Some of my favorite games around here look Portal, Portal 2, Stanley Parable. The top 28 games to beat in an evening, Firewatch. I don't think you can beat these games in an evening, for the record, but they are short. And not all of them are walking simulators. Like there's the vanishing of Ethan Carter and what remains of Edith Finch. Okay, little walking story simulators, right? It's very story based. But there's also Super Hot, Super Hot, pretty great, right? Super intense shooter, a lot of fun. But yeah, you can knock it out in an evening. So a lot of these are like mixes of story games. Almost all of these are like kind of story-based games. Tacoma, The Gardens Between. But I don't think it even has to be that way. I think you find what you like, and you make it the game that you want it to be, right? So you can play the big games if you go, oh, I'm happy making a little bit of progress. Because life is a little bit like, I made a little bit of progress, and I'll set little goals for myself. The big problem for me has been when you're in the subscription service, you want to feel like you get the most value out of it. So if you're like, oh, I never have time for games, I don't know if I want to play anything, and you're subscribing to game services, my suggestion would be buy a game. Because when you buy a game, you complete it at your own pace. I feel the same way when I borrow books from the library. Borrow this book from the library, read 2 chapters, but I'm busy with something else. I feel guilty. I have to stop doing the thing that I actually need to be spending time on to go read the library book. And when the library is great, it's wonderful. I voted for a tax increase in my area to pay for more library services. My kids use it. I use it. Libraries are wonderful. Um, but sometimes you need to buy the thing so that you can consume it at your own pace. And subscription services don't let you do that. Subscription services always pull you and make you feel like you're pushing through it. So I'd say try some small games if you can on a subscription service, because there's small games on PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass. But if you're constantly buying the new Assassin's Creed game where it's 300 hours of gameplay and a map full of icons, yeah, you're going to feel like you're never making any progress. And you might just psych yourself into feeling like gaming is no longer a hobby for you. And I don't think that's true. I think you find small things, small games, or small goals within games. 2 interesting things about the Nintendo is no achievement system. So you don't feel like, oh, I beat the game, but I missed out. Right? It's like you just play if you want. And then also, like, I love puzzle games. This doesn't work for everybody, but I love Picross and these nonogram games because I can go do a puzzle and then I walk away. There's a reason why the New York Times crossword puzzle and Wordle and these other puzzle games are so popular, because you could play them, you feel like you had a good time, and then you're off with the rest of your day. So I would say if you haven't tried like a puzzle game that kind of fits your itch, maybe you're not super into puzzles, you might try Picross. Anyway, that's my something useful segment of the week. Small games for busy adults. Appreciate you listening to the show. Thank you so much. We talked about all kinds of news this week. Microsoft's new deal with A&D, the fact that there's going to be another Xbox. Some weird game delays or changes. Marathon got delayed. Beat Saber is off. No more new development on PlayStation VR. But there's probably a new Xbox branded VR headset with MetaQuest 3S. Death Stranding 2 comes out this week. If you're going to get it, let me know. I'm still working my way through Death Stranding 1, and I think because of the story, I'm going to attempt to finish it before I buy Death Stranding 2. So you'll be off to the races. I'll be enjoying talking with you all about it out there on Threads and TikTok and YouTube, where you can follow me. Just search for The Andy B Show, andrew.m.b on Threads. Or you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/The Andy B Show. Feel free to sign up, be a free member. You're going to see, you'll never miss a podcast. You'll get some behind the scenes stuff that I only post there. So feel free to jump into the Patreon and support the show. It does take some time, money, and energy to put the show on. So if you are enjoying the show a lot, share the show, subscribe wherever you like to listen, or feel free to support the show as a friend of the show tier on Patreon. I really appreciate you considering that. And we'll be back next week on The Andy B Show, a video game podcast. Trademark. See you then.